Point with Brian Fisher. Focal Point with Brian Fisher.
Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk, 888-589-8840. Talk about anything you want over these last 13 minutes, 888-589-8840. A quick soundbite. This is Harry Reid on the Senate floor. You know, you start wondering about whether this guy's elevator goes all the way to the top. I mean, you honestly wonder how mentally sound Harry Reid is. Listen to this soundbite and who he blames for global warming.
The report that I'm referring to here concluded there are disastrous climate changes taking place on our Earth due to human activity. While the Koch brothers admit to not being experts on the matter, these billionaire oil tycoons are certainly experts contributing to climate change. That's what they do very well. They are one of the main causes of this. Not a cause, one of the main causes.
That's Harry Reid. The Koch brothers, one of the main causes of planet-destroying global warming. That is just like nuts, just like insane. Here's Charles Krauthammer, clip number 2, Rob. Charles Krauthammer's reaction to what you just heard from Harry Reid.
Harry Reid's pronouncement should be transcribed and all made into SAT questions, in which the question is, can you spot the number of inaccuracies in one paragraph? The Koch brothers are the two richest people on Earth. It's not true. They are the biggest, one of the major causes of global warming is sort of semi-insane. The United States itself as a country isn't one of the major causes of global warming. It's a very small part of it. In fact, our contribution has declined. The biggest cut in it in the world since 2006 has been the United States. Our levels of CO2 emission are now at 1992 levels. So, I mean, on any scale, and you wonder why this, he reminds me of the vice president, except that because Harry Reid never smiles and is angry and aggressive and kind of mean, he doesn't get a pass the way Joe Biden does, who's sort of a pleasant, hearty guy who's always saying kind of odd things, but everybody says it's a Bidenism and they move on. But with Harry, it's very hard to say it's a Reidism because he's always trying to hurt folks with what he says.
That's Charles Krauthammer on Harry Reid. And, you know, you talk about an angry white male. I mean, that is, you look up angry white male in the dictionary, and there is Harry Reid's picture. You know, I see Harry Reid as a small man in every sense of the word. He's mean. He is vindictive. He is a mean-spirited little man, and that's what Charles Krauthammer was saying. Now, another problem, Lois Lerner, again, the IRS, she's being voted in contempt of the House of Representatives. They're trying to decide whether to lock her up, which they can. We talked about that yesterday. Now, here's a fellow Democrat, Elijah Cummings, coming to Lois Lerner's defense. Let's listen.
Let me say this. Again, this is the first time since the 1950s and 60s that a committee has stripped somebody of their Fifth Amendment right and then at the same time went on to a criminal contempt citation. And this is unprecedented except in the McCarthy era. And even in that era, it failed. And so, you know, I'm wondering where we're going here, Joe. It seems as if there has been an effort to, again, my argument was not that I don't want to hear what Ms. Lerner had to say. I really do want to hear it. But you know what? There's something that is more significant than that, and that is upholding the constitutional rights of every single American.
Well, she wasn't stripped of her Fifth Amendment rights. She stripped herself of the Fifth Amendment rights when she proclaimed her own innocence. She waived her right when she opened her testimony by saying, I haven't done anything wrong. I'm pure as the driven snow. I am guiltless of all of these charges. She just waived her right to her Fifth Amendment rights. So nobody took that away from her. She gave it up. She forfeited it by what she said. You know, and Elijah Cummings is concerned about her constitutional rights. Well, what about the constitutional rights of every single member of the Tea Party that she violated? What about their constitutional rights to freedom of speech? What about their constitutional rights to the freedom of the press? What about their constitutional rights to petition the government for the redress of grievances? She systematically denied them effective participation in the political process, which is one of the things the First Amendment was guaranteed and written to protect. You know, we saw yesterday that 10% of the donors to Tea Parties, not only were the Tea Parties being harassed, but 10% of the donors to Tea Parties were being audited by the IRS. You know what the standard rate for an audit is? 1%. So donors to the Tea Party were being audited at 10 times the rate of ordinary Americans. One last soundbite. This is Charlie Rango, clip number 3. And I just love it when liberals are so concerned about the health and the future and the success of the Republican Party.
What do you think of this thing? Do you think Democrats should support it, should sit on it?
I think it's a great idea. I thought they were going to have a select committee on affordable care because it appears that they've given up on that, and now they're going to have a select committee to study what we already studied. I think it's tragic that the Republican Party would destroy itself in 2016 by not having one issue that the American people believe should be a priority.
That's Charlie Rangel. It's just tragic. He's just broken up. He's heartbroken. He's about ready to burst into tears at the self-immolation of the Republican Party by investigating Benghazi. Now, and so, you know, it's absurd because you know that Charlie Rangel would dance on the grave of the GOP. So the only reason he brings this up is he's trying to sow some doubt in the minds of the Republicans about whether this is a smart move, and that means they are scared to death of this Benghazi investigation. They're scared to death of what this is going to surface, what it's going to reveal, what it's going to do to Hillary's chances to be the next president in 2016. All right, let's go back to the phones. Let's begin with Kenny, Norman, Oklahoma. Kenny, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hello, Brian. I want you to know that I still love you, and you got one of the best programs in all of radio. The Word of God says that all liars and whoremongers will be cast into the lake of fire. Somebody needs to tell Tom that. Whoremongers, that's homosexuals, adulterers, pornographers, fornicators. And to the topic, I love Christian Talk Radio. It helps me in my Christian walk, Brian. I hope that you will hold Russell Moore's feet to the fire and pursue his comments. And once again, I still love you, even though we strongly disagree over Catholicism. I have studied Catholicism. I know God loves the Catholic people, but God hates the religion of Catholicism. But I love you still, Brian.
All right, Kenny. Well, listen, I appreciate your kind words about Christian radio and appreciate your call. And, you know, I was going to talk about something the Pope said yesterday. I don't have time, out of time to do it. Maybe we'll talk about it on Monday. And part of what the Pope said in this statement I agree with. Part of it I strongly disagree with. The Pope saying the state ought to be involved in the redistribution of wealth. The rest of it, he said, we ought to be generous. We ought to be open-hearted. We ought to be open-handed with what God has blessed us with. Absolutely agree. That's all voluntary. That's good. We support that. That's what Jesus taught, the voluntary redistribution of wealth. But when the Pope begins to talk about using the power of the state to redistribute wealth, then I'm going to disagree with His Holiness on that one, because that's nothing more than legalized plunder. Government is force. If government by force extracts resources from one citizen only to turn around and give them to another citizen, that's just legalized theft, involuntary redistribution of wealth, and not what the scriptures teach. 888-589-8840 is the number to call if you'd like to get a call in here before the end of the hour. Why not, while we're here, let's grab clip number 4, Rob, if we can. This is Al Sharpton. This is just kind of a little palate cleanser for your weekend. Al Sharpton, MSNBC, getting paid who knows how many hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to say things like this. This is Al Sharpton, a montage of Al Sharpton fighting his own teleprompter. Feast your ears on this.
They're all jitty about a shutdown. The tortoise in the race, then co-author of Hubris. U2 lead singer Bono, Fran Drescher, Sigourney Weaver, suspect Jahar Tsarnaev, Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh, the show Rush Lombard hosts Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. Is Mike Muckery yesterday, Antonin Scalia, Kim Kardashian, and the Republican candidates, both Cairo and Benghazi. We rank behind Lavita. First stop, Kazakhstan to college students in Beijing. He's getting lunch at Chipotle in Iowa. Maine is appropriate. The GOP's tax day giveaway to millionaires. Why was traffic problems email sent? The Environmental Projection Agency. And what sequestration has done.
So that's Reverend Al fighting the teleprompter and losing. Philip, Arkansas, got about 30 seconds, Philip. It's all I got left. Go, hit me.
Hey, Brian.
Hey.
I'm not all warm and fuzzy about the people as the sinner. You got 60 seconds to convince me that we would have sin on earth without the sinner. In other words, does the earth exist as a sinful place?
Well, the scriptures teaches that the creation fell when man fell. It was subjected to futility, according to Romans 8, in connection with the sin of man. So man's sin corrupted the environment. The environment fell. The reason we have floods, disasters, earthquakes is because of the sin of man. So it's connected. The creation, the groaning of the creation is connected, according to the scriptures, to the sin of man. Listen, out of time. Wish I had more time to continue our discussion, Philip, but we are out of time. Thanks for listening this week. That's it for this week. We are pulling the USS Focal Point into port. Generous shore leave, 70 hours. We'll see you back here on Monday. Bow low before God, stand tall before man, stand in the gap. Never forget, we're fighting winnable wars. See you Monday.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast do not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
American Family Radio.
AFR Talk.
If you're one of the many AFR listeners who want to help those impacted by the recent tornadoes, AFR.net is a trusted resource for reputable ministry partners. Live links to these partners are provided so you can rest assured that your contribution will be best used to supply disaster relief in the name of Christ. AFR.net. AFR.net.
Faith, family, freedom.
American Family Radio, AFR Talk.
A ministry of the